Yeah. Welcome to CED Talks, where we separate fact from fiction. Method of omit every time. This that CED talk, yeah, we said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear define. They say the ancients had science. Hold up, pause. Knowledge ain't the same as methodological laws. Observation, yeah, but control tests rare. No predictive models, you gotta be fair. We respect the past, but we keep it exact. Precision matters when you deal with facts. Astronomy grew, astrology split. One stayed empirical, one lean myth. The shift came through naturalistic method. Just standing of eyes, that's how we embed it. Not culture bound, not tied to a place. It's a universal tool for the human race. This got CED talks, yeah, you said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence based when we build these frames. CED talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defiance. They blur definitions, start moving the goalposts. Turn fried to a claim that don't hold close. Science ain't on, this a process refined. Independent of culture, space and time. You can't redefine it to fit identity. That's how you lose all epistemic integrity. We test every claim, we don't just believe. If it can't be verified, we don't receive. From early observers to labs today, it's rigor and doubt that paved the way. Not name dropping scholars to win a debate, but data and method that validate. So what's your ideology? That's cool to ask, but truth ain't decided by the loudest class. We question it all, no sacred ground. If it don't hold up, we break it down. This that CED talk, yeah, we live in direct. No fear in the facts, just intellectual respect. No more, no mirror, no fantasy, just truth, logic, and consistency. Yeah, pseudo killer. We're going under the hood, past the observation, into the code, the philosophy of the machine. Let's work. I'm viewing the world through a lens that's purely mechanistic. No room for the magic, it's logic and purely statistic. This thought shoot a blueprint, saw the universe's gear, stripped the ghost from the machine and replaced the mist with years of observation, calculation, cold hard dissection. Every movement in the cosmos is a physical connection. Man is a motor, a clockwork, a bone in the vein. Let's do they log, I call approach, I'm isolating the brain. It's the call. No absolutes in the sight. Just the lens focused sharp in the middle of the night. Nothing they log I call naturalism, the rule of the game. We don't speak it forever. We just map out the frame. Come on the induction, probability is king. Science ain't a prophet, it's a thinking thing. Now into David Hume, the skeptic with the wrecking ball, telling you that certainty is headed for a heavy fall. Just cause the sun rose today don't mean it's guaranteed. That's the problem of induction, that's the intellectual seed. So we build on readability, we don't claim the throne. We're just navigating reality with the data we've grown. Science stays humble, keep the absolute on the shelf. It's a system that's designed to keep correcting itself. The metric in the mix, yeah, he's calling us machines. Bearing tollback, dropping systems, defining the scene. Keep the who out the how, keep the method in the lane. We ain't arguing the spirit, we're just measuring the lane. That's a specific epistemic bridge, the root of the view. If it can't be measured, it's a different interview. Pseudo killer on the mic, breaking down the framework. Philosophy is science now, going to the brainwork. Void of absolutes, high availability. This is the foundation, the engine is running. CED Talks Season 2. Good afternoon, and welcome back to another CED Talks. As the intro already illustrated, is the sound everybody? Did you hear everything I was saying? I saw some people saying you couldn't hear me, but is the sound good? Can I get a one in the chat if the sound is good? I'll turn off the screen eventually because that helps with the bandwidth. Just want everybody to know I'm here. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me a one in the chat if you can hear me. You can hear me loud and clear. Give me a one in the chat. Can somebody put a one in the chat? Testing. Can y'all hear me? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Good. Everybody can hear me. All good. Thank y'all for being here once again. Now, let me put on my camera for just a bit. Today, we got an interesting one. We're going to take a dive into René Descartes and his contributions to the. And we're going to do some reading, and we're going to find out some interesting things about Descartes and some of the assumptions that are associated with natural philosophy. Like we keep saying, those that built the scientific system we use today are inherently natural philosophers. This system that they built produce the scientists of the world after the established process was created. The community often have the illusion that when we introduce a concept, that it is automatic, and that is not the reality of the case, right? We know for a fact that things develop over time. It requires a thinking process. So yesterday, we delved into Bacon. Why was Bacon significant? Because Bacon took us out of the books. The Aristotelian model was go study the great, go read the books, and study their material, right? And what did Bacon say? No, we can't trust what is in those books. We need to go into the material itself. We need to get our hands dirty. We need to get in the mud. That was the first framing of empiricism, actual data, factual data, right? And the process of induction. No longer are we are simply going to rationalize our way to the answer. We are going to have physical evidence and we are going to use an inductive method, right? Induction has its limitation. As we explored, induction can lead to hasty generalizations. There is where Descartes comes in. Descartes is known for his famous question everything, the ultimate skeptic. Again, consider the environment which produces this frame of mind. These were the philosophers of the time. These were the men of renown. Again, imagine the sailor returning after crossing the Atlantic. He returns, he's skinny, he's dirty, he's smelling, teeth falling out of his mouth, and he has more knowledge than all of the authorities of the day, all of the natural philosophers of the day, who, by means of having read all the works of the great ones, documents that existed for over 1,500 years, the status quo, the way things was disrupted. So this is the environment that you find these natural philosophers at the time. These were the men of renown. These were the knowledge keepers of the world. Next to the philosophical branch, they were firmly intertwined with theology. They were the theological branch of the papacy, right? These systems were not separated, they were one. Remember this, the authority at this time was the state, was the church. Rome had since fallen away, and the Roman and the Catholic Church, the empire. Remember, this is a time of discovery that is happening all over the world by means of papal bull. I'm setting the arena so you understand the mental state of confusion that is in the arena, which is forcing these philosophers back to the drawing board. Their empirical system, their epistemic regime is crumbling under their feet. The thinkers go back to thinking. Science is a thinking man's game. So we explored Bacon. Bacon required us to get our hands dirty, to close the books, forget what the authority said or written down. Empiricism, hands dirty, hands on data, data collection. And based on the collection of the data and the analysis of the data, the patterns recognized in that data, you reach to your conclusion. As we mentioned, hasty generalization. Your observation is limited to your geography, space, and time. The absolute nature of that statement becomes now questionable. And here's where Descartes comes in. Descartes decides we are going to question everything. But as we are going to see, the reasoning for questioning everything is far different than you would expect. Now we are going to explore first the scientific contributions he made by means of a presentation, after which we will go into the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, where we will take a brief look and explore his mind and see how all these things are interconnected, painting the picture of the historical framework in which this revolution of thought is happening, this revolution of changing, of the deconstruction of one epistemic regime and the construction of another. The reason the word revolution is being used, the authority of the state is being questioned. The empirical rule of the papacy is being challenged. The authority of the church, the fiat nature in which their authority was established, is being fundamentally questioned and undermined. Most philosophers of this time, contrary to popular belief, are attempting to use philosophy to reestablish the parameters in which God, the agent, the state, can remain authority. Lo and behold, science is a product of serendipity. While attempting to firmly establish the supernatural in this new paradigm, the byproduct was a completely insecular motor. Reality is far more stranger than fiction. Make sure you get the thumb up the video as we continue into the delve into philosophy. At the end of this series, we'd have touch on materialism. Then, indeed, individuals like Roger Bacon and a host of other philosophers become paramount in establishing philosophical premises within the art of philosophy. We have metaphysical philosophy, we have natural philosophy, and we have many other branches within the philosophical framework. Like we are focusing on these key pillars, the fact that these are predominantly philosophers. Philosophers, no one questions this. You see, in the community, we have the popularity contest where they digress the conversation to arguing whether Newton was a scientist or not, a non sequitur argument to the conversation we're having, thereby creating a straw man which they can argue against. However, the reality, of the matter is that we are in a time of flux. We are in a time where the natural philosophers are doing their utmost not to establish science, but to affirm the authority of the papacy. Counterintuitive. As a byproduct, it is within it's within, you see it. It's incorporated into the presentation. Yeah, Mel, that was perfect. At the end of it, it's going to bring everything together. Thank you. You see the collective effort that we do here. It is not a one-man show. The pseudo killers, the community of skeptics, is a force to be reckoned with. We support each other's efforts. You might see one or two faces. However, there's a whole army, a whole network of support behind there. Make sure you thumb up the button, thumb up the like up the show, share it the show, tell a friend to tell a friend. Help this algorithm. This is the information and the understanding that is so desperately needed in the community, right? And you can see the desire and the need for it. We are, again, as I continue to illustrate, we are in an epistemic rupture where the scientific method is taking over, scientific literacy is becoming the norm, and the natural philosophers are doing everything in their power right now to remain relevant, right, and have their status maintained. It is inevitable that we will move away from natural philosophy. If we look in the community, natural philosophy hasn't produced any real fruits that we can measure, whereby scientific literacy is going to provide you with the ability to make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and by extension, the community at large. Look up the definition of scientific literacy, right? It has been a hallmark of what the community of skeptics and the pseudo killers represent. We are science communicators and we promote scientific literacy. So that is an aspect of what we are doing here. We see the need for it in the community and the pushback that you, the audience, have been, the pressure that you have been applying on different panels, requesting the methodology and clear understanding of what these individuals are presenting is evidence of the work we are doing over here. So I thank you for your support. Everyone in here is part of this family. We are creating a community of scientifically skeptical thinkers who can spot the pseudoisms in real time, and that is becoming a real threat in this community as you see people literally crash out. All right, without further ado, let me get in today's presentation. Dun, dun, dun. Share. Refined focus. Doubt as a tool. Descartes and the birth of self-correcting science. What if being wrong is not a failure of knowledge, but a requirement of it? In Discourse of Method, René Descartes does something radical. He doesn't try to prove he's right. He builds a method designed to expose when he's wrong. And that shift changes everything. Descartes' greatest contribution to scientific thinking is he transformed doubt from a weakness into a methodological tool. Mind you, we are going from the certainty and the arrogance of the old. Aristotle said it, so be it. No questioning and no doubt, absolute certainty by fear. Now, this area of doubt is being created by the environment that they are currently in. Again, their epistemic regime is falling apart. Doubt is everywhere. Philosopher, he is going to make lemonade out of lemons. So he transformed doubt from a weakness into a methodological tool. No, don't be scared of your doubt. We can use this doubt. This creates an intellectual condition for error detection, revisions of belief, continuous improvement of knowledge. In other words, the foundation of self-correcting inquiry within the realm of science. However, on the other aspect, this revision of belief, especially when those beliefs are unsubstantiated and unsupported, allows you to create an unfalsifiable position because you can simply revisit your belief, revise your belief based on your objection to current data. So see the dualistic nature of this thought process. I mean, you must maintain that throughout this presentation. This concept of doubting self is relevant and applicable in the scientific inquiry. Skepticism existed before Descartes, obviously, especially in the arena that he now exists. Turmoil exists. Skepticism is a real thing, but it was often paralyzing, right? Because skepticism to the status quo, when the status quo was the epistemic regime, skepticism within that model creates stagnation, creates frustration, creates witch hunts, creates a Spanish Inquisition. Descartes reconstructs it into something positive. Don't doubt randomly, doubt systematically. Use doubt as a filter to filter out errors. This becomes methodological skepticism. So no longer you simply question authority to question authority. It must be within its proper context. And I'm mentioning authority because, again, he's a natural philosopher. His goal was never to establish a scientific method. Let's be honest. We are going to see that later. Serendipity. If you do not know what that word is, look it up. Descartes' framework led to a critical shift. Before, knowledge was something to defend. They would sit in their grand halls and they would have debates, philosophical debates. And the better you are at defending your particular position was how that philosophical position was going to be established. And again, I say by fiat, which means just by let me say it. I said it, so be it. Nothing within the framework of actual or substantial evidence or anything like that. It is by fiat. And if you understand what by fiat means, you will understand that they are pretty much making it up. So now, after Descartes, knowledge becomes something you test and potentially reject. Now, you have to realize that Descartes is within the realm of rationalism. It is all about the thought process for him. We have on the other side Bacon, who says, gather all material, test. Descartes is introducing doubt in a structured way. Are you sure all swans are white? Based on what have you determined that all swans are white? Are you sure? You see the doubt that he puts in there. Now that doubt creates an environment where you realize, maybe I might need further evidence. So this claim, this position, can only be tentative, because based on not having to defend the position, the fact that me being potentially wrong is something accepted, now we can add probability to the equation. Now, the four rules we visited. Now, as an error correction tool, right? Mind you, you're in an environment where skepticism, questioning the authority, led to dysfunction, turmoil. It's called a scientific revolution. Descartes, he says, clarity rules eliminate unjustified belief. So something that is not too convoluted, that's not clear, concise, and you can start to eliminate it. Only accept what is clear and distinct. Filter out weak assumptions. So the all swans are white. That's a relatively weak assumption. It is only within a particular geography have you done these observations. Where do all swans live? Have you traversed all of the planet? Have you identified all possible areas in which swans can be found? Until now, it is my my observations that swans appear to be all white. You see, the language introduced there leaves space for the eventuality that if I find a black swan, I can correct my hypothesis. Why? It has been falsified. However, the system, just the language itself, allows for that fluidity, for that possibility. You see now in the conscious community that is taken as a weakness. Hey, so tomorrow science gonna say something else. Science, they know what I'm talking about. We have someone in the chat consistently asking why there are so much experiments that can't be replicated. How do you know this? Is it due to the self-correcting nature of science itself? So science is the one indicating where there are flaws in the system. That means science is working. The fact that you know that, that's a plus for science. Somehow you think that this is a negative against science, when it is not. Order rule prevents logical leaps, move from simple to complex, reduces compound errors. So if you are building your reasoning in stages by means of deduction, by means of induction, and you do this in steps and in sequences, you are less likely to compound errors. You re-examine your philosophical framework or your reasoning at every possible juncture, allowing you to catch possible errors in reasoning early on. A mind again, logical leaps. So you know this is a state of mind. This is reasoning, right? Here we're not talking about physical data. This is about the processing mechanism that is taking place with the brain. So order rule, the order rule, right? Prevents logical leaps. Step by step building. Review rule. This is the built-in self-correction. You must always review, systematically check your reasoning. I want you to stop there for a minute. Systematically check your reasoning. Now, what if your reason is fundamentally flawed, like we have been seeing over the sequence of a series by the other channels, the individuals who have fundamentally flawed positions of departure, which leave them down rabbit holes. And they are operating solely within the realm of rationality, within the realm of logical deduction. Although these form the foundation of science because of its radical departure from its predecessor, natural philosophy, methodological naturalism, you can see in its infancy, has obvious flaws that we can recognize here right now. That's why it is a process to reach to the final product.
That's why only in the conscious community are we getting these irrelevant arguments of whether Newton is a scientist or not, when no one is questioning whether Descartes is a scientist, although his work is foundational. The mathematical modeling that comes out of his reasoning forms the foundation for Newton's work. Newton, yet still a natural philosopher, built upon what Descartes did. So if Newton is by y'all definition a scientist, how come y'all so intellectual, so much about this subject, never introduced Descartes as a scientist? Popularity game, superficial stuff, quick Google, no depth in the information, surface level scholarship, all in an attempt to undermine the pseudo killers because our mere existence is a threat to your natural philosophical foundation. The authority which you assume to have has been taken away. We refer to the sources, so there's no attack on the person, although that seems to be the case. It is an irrelevant and insignificant attempt. You can't argue with the sources. You can't provide a source that argues with the scientific consensus. This is a simple historical narrative that we are simply putting in chronological order, and maybe bringing some of this information in a nuanced manner, making science cool, making philosophy cool in a community that has never really interacted with this material on a significant level. Descartes creates a framework where being wrong is expected and useful. That's revolutionary. In medieval system, being wrong is failure or heresy. If you have a different position than the state, heresy, you will be burnt at the stake, accused of witchcraft. The Cartesian model, being wrong, is a step towards certainty. When you eliminate a wrong idea, when you find that you have eliminated what is wrong, what is left can only be more correct. So the process of eliminating wrong ideas is a step within the direction of certainty. This idea evolves into core scientific practices. You see now, consistently, my peers, what I call them my peers, no, interlocutor, no, subjects in my laboratory, the barbershop boys, the rhetoric over content, the smile over depth, the boom, 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 bam, 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 quick talking, hustling individuals that know how to manipulate emotional environments, but have no ability to engage in an actual clinical examination of the data. If you need to ask a man 50 times to explain to you what an observation is, either you are that slow or you're attempting to undermine the integrity and the position of an individual, all the while exposing your weakness, your insecurities, because you're not smart and you know it. You have no place in the equation and you know it. In an environment where integrity is paramount, scientific environment, your money plays no role. You cannot buy loyalty from the intellectuals that are around what you perceive to be Mount Olympus. Climb, nigga, climb. Hypothesis testing, peer review, replication, falsification. And again, see, now this is a cool point. When does Karl Popper introduce falsification? Now, the premature steps of falsification, self-falsification, are in the system. But if y'all thinking that the system was complete, 1802, bam, thunder, go figure out when the aspect of falsification was added by Karl Popper. Science doesn't aim to prove itself right. This is the counterintuitive nature of this whole argumentation. If we were proven wrong, we are engaging in a scientific process. We are eliminating errors. Unfortunately, y'all are not equipped intellectually to even scratch at the surface of this conversation, let alone be in a position to peer review the work we do. That's why we are bringing on experts of the highest level to actually do the work, what is necessary. At the same time, our work will be peer reviewed by the mere conversation being had. It is another layer of justification and and substantiation of the things we teach in the community. Shout out to the God Killer. Shout out to Juju. Shout out to Mystic. Shout out to Kick Dawkins. Shout out to Sosa. These are the people that go out of their way to bring the qualified experts to the platform. Sosa is one of the best people to engage in such an interview. My level of excitement, I'll be cutting people off and asking too much questions. So understanding your person too is maturity. So for the benefit of the information to the people, I usually sit in the chat when those high-level interviews are taking place because my high energy doesn't work there. Self-awareness in a positive sense, not in an attempt to bring something down, but always as a contributor. Descartes' insistence on clarity leads to mathematical modeling of nature, which is the underpinning. So all your empiricism is executed, and once your empiricism is executed, it must fit a mathematical model of reality. It reduces ambiguity, demands for precise definitions. Who's something y'all don't very much appreciate around this community? Let's be honest. Every time I ask for a clear definition, people loses their shit because they want the ability to redefine what words mean. Leave open the dictionary. Illustrate to a gentleman if there are 5 definitions and we are using one. The moment you introduce an other, you are using a different definition. We are not having the same communication. He insists on not being able to understand that. Well, Thunder, if that level of clarity eludes you, my friend, why are you even attempting to entertain this conversation? You are at the infancy of the conversation. You need to slow your roll, like we say in the Caribbean. Step back, brother. You ain't ready for this. Hold it down. Bam, bam. This supports the later development by Isaac Newton, the philosopher. The mathematization of physical laws, the philosophical principle. Philosophical principle. All things must be modeled by mathematics. Philosophical principle. Because mathematics is the language of God, as we will see shortly. There's a bait and switch there. I'm going to show you. Logical fallacies by the great Descartes. But we got him. 400 years later, said, got him. I'm going to show y'all. Francis Bacon gave us observations. Get your hands dirty. Throw away the books, for the ancients have lost all credibility. There are much more than 3 continents on this planet, and we have discovered other herbs that cure malaria. So the malaise is but a farce. David Hume, Descartes gave science methodological doubt. You have the room, son, to be wrong. It is not necessary. Your ego will not be damaged. The frailty of your existence will be intact if you are proven wrong. Being proven wrong means you have eliminated yet one wrong idea, yet one wrong philosophical position, yet another error in reasoning has been eliminated. Take gratitude, take solace in the mere fact that you have now discovered an error that you can eliminate from your psyche. He made being wrong cool for particular reasons. Now, stick with me. Don't go away yet. It's going to get interesting. David Hume, David Hume. Now I'm nerding out. Y'all can see I'm nerding out. I'm really enjoying myself, right? Will challenge certainty itself. Together they produce modern scientific thinking. Tomorrow we gonna have fun with Hume. Hume's my buddy. Cause Hume told all y'all, you made it up. I ain't not accepting no arbitrary metaphysical claims without evidence. Y'all just making it up. That's the man right there for me. See, everybody got their hero. But in terms of the thinking process, the terms of hard lines, this the man here. This the one who watch all of them. Y'all philosophers, y'all full of it. Y'all making it up. I want to show you some of them make it up stuff by Descartes. Stick with me. It's gonna get fun. We having fun today. We having fun today. Shout out to Mel. So now we see on the bottom our good boy, Mr. Bacon. Foot loose, break loose, break out Sunday loose. Sensory data and experience. Get the microscope out. Get out of your glass ceilings. Put on your shoes and let's go outside. Let's dig in the dirt. Let's get our hands dirty. Descartes said, wait a minute. The conclusions you reaching because you've been out there in the dirt. Now, I'm not going to tell him, but I know they got black swans. So while Mr. Bacon was footloose and thinking all swans are white, Mr. Descartes was saying, well, I don't know about that. Are you sure you can reach that conclusion? I should render that conclusion tentative if I were you. You have no certainty there. You must put an asterisk there. Allow room for yourself to be wrong, for you would not want to look like a fool in front of the college of your peers tomorrow, having discovered the black swan that I found in the lake next door. So you see, empiricism, path of observation, tools enhances our ability to see. The microscope, infinitely small. The telescope, infinitely large. Specific laws, you need raw data. Pattern recognition leads to a generalization conclusion, and the word generalization should require a prefix. Hasty is often the conclusion there. Combine this with deductive reasoning, premise, logic, a priori knowledge, logical structure. You're formulating these syllogisms in your head. And they must be sequential and they must comport to the logical frameworks. Certain conclusions within logical systems. So you see, you have here empirical and observation, so the Baconian system, and you have empirical observations. These are one. And then you have on the other side 3 and 4 in deductive predictions, tentative. You have experimenting and testing of new observation. You are starting to see the wheel, what becomes science later on. And here you have the output, refined theory, probabilistic understanding. That probabilistic is because Descartes said, are you sure about that? I'm too sure. And that conclusion can be a little hasty. I know for a fact there might be some black swan somewhere. Okay, Descartes didn't just ask what is true. He asked how to prevent ourselves from being wrong. Now, you got to understand the reason he's asking this question, though. This is a caveat. Again, I'm going to take you back to this time in history. He's well a part of the establishment, grounded, rooted in the establishment. He is the authority. The authority is crumbling from under his feet. They have been proven wrong. Now he needs to figure a way to make being wrong cool. And justify his beliefs. Y'all gonna see it, it's cool. And that question becomes central to science. So you see, when you see what I'm talking about, science and serendipity, they were not trying to produce science, these philosophers. They were scrambling, grasping at straws, trying to find a new way to quantify and qualify information. The scientific method, secular, methodological naturalism, the exclusion of supernatural, etc., is by serendipity. It is by those asking the right question to those who are trying by all means of logic and reason to maintain the status quo. That's why they were natural philosophers. They weren't trying to be scientists in the least. None of them. Not even Galileo. Don't tell nobody I said so. Don't tell nobody I said so. You're going to find out. Science doesn't advance because we are certain. It advances because we are willing to question certainty. Descartes didn't give us final answers. He gave us something far more powerful, a method that expects errors, seeks it out, and corrects it. And that is what makes knowledge not just possible, but progressive. That's the end of the slideshow. We talked about Descartes today and his contribution to the scientific method. Boom, boom. How y'all there? Everybody liked up the show, thumb up the show. I'm going to be back in just a second with the second part of the show where we get into a little bit more of the state of mind that was there at the time. I'm going to read a little bit from the ontological arguments from Descartes in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's going to be quite interesting read. Don't forget, hit the like button, thumb up the show, tell a friend to tell a friend. The Pseudo Killers is in the building. Let me just enjoy this for a second.
Yeah, Pseudo Killer. We're going under the hood, past the observation, into the code, the philosophy of the machine. Let's work. I'm viewing the world through a lens that's purely mechanistic. No room for the magic, it's logic and purely statistic. The slot through the blueprint, saw the universe's gear. Strip the ghost from the machine and replace the mist with years of observation, calculation, cold hard dissection. Every movement in the cosmos is a physical connection. Man is a motor, a clockwork, a bone in the vein. Methodically, I call approach, I'm isolating the brain. It's the Descartes protocol. No absolutes in the sight. Just the lens focused sharp in the middle of the night. Nothing they law got called naturalism, the rule of the game. We don't speak it forever. We just map out the frame. Harmony, induction, probability is king. Science ain't a prophet, it's a thinking thing. Now into David Hume, the skeptic with the wrecking ball, telling you that certainty is headed for a heavy fall. Just cause the sun rose today don't mean it's guaranteed. That's the problem of induction, that's the intellectual seed. So we build on readability, we don't claim the throne. We're just navigating reality with the data we've grown. Science stays humble, keep the absolute on the shelf. It's a system that's designed to keep correcting itself. The metric in the mix, yeah, he's calling us
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the serendipity, the by chance having discovered science, and it's gonna be an interesting read. I'm gonna take you to the source. If anyone wants to get up here, the link is in the chat. And come up the show or jump up here, have a conversation, talk about it. It's a very interesting aspect of history, and it's good to see the mindset that that we were dealing with. So I'm gonna do a little bit of readumship. All right, pulled from the source, the encyclopedia, um, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Let me see if y'all can see the screen. No, why isn't it sharing? Okay. Oop. Oh yeah, it is sharing. All right, let's go. The simplicity of the argument. One of the hallmarks of Descartes' version of the ontological argument is its simplicity. You see the ontological argument, when you see the ontological argument, you understand that we are talking about determining or establishing what God is, the essence of the supernatural, right? That's the ontological argument. The ontology is the nature of things in general, but the ontological argument takes you right straight, boom, to religion. So that's supposed to give Al an indication already of where this man's frame of reference is. Okay? This is a theological endeavor. Stick with me. One of the hallmarks of Descartes' version of the ontological argument is its simplicity. Indeed, it reads more like a report of an intuition than a formal proof. Descartes underscores the simplicity of his demonstration by comparing it to the way we ordinarily establish very basic truth in arithmetic and geometry, such as that numbers, the number two, is even, or that the sum of the angles of a triangle is equal to the sum of two right angles. We intuit such truth directly by inspecting our clear and distinct ideas of number two and of the angle. So, likewise, we are able to attain knowledge of God's existence simply by apprehending the necessary existence is included in the clear and distinct idea of supremely perfect being, as Descartes writes in his fifth meditation. Let's go. We're going into the fifth meditation. But if the mere fact that I can produce from my thoughts the idea of something entails that everything which I clearly and distinctly perceive to belong to that thing really does belong to it. It is not possible. It is not this possible basis for another argument to prove the existence of God? So he establishes that there are abstract realities that you can perceive. I can perceive a triangle, and by no means is the mental perception of that triangle void of the reality of a triangle, right? Even if a triangle is not there, these properties that I am imagining, they do belong to a triangle, and each one of us in this audience right now can concur. That's an abstract factuality versus a metaphysical reality. You see right here, he is committing a logical fallacy. This is called an equivocation fallacy. So he is equating his metaphysical assumption to a mental actuality. That actuality of the triangle is not on equal footing as the metaphysical assertion of a deity. But this is his thought process. So we're going through it. Doom, 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 doom. Where was I? Okay. Certainly, the idea of God or a supremely perfect being, idea of God, supremely perfect, arbitrary. What is the justification for that position? Completely arbitrary. Is one that I find within me just as surely as the idea of any shape or number. So he is equating his his deep conviction of the existence of a supernatural deity, he equates that to the same surety that he can produce numbers in his head or define the shape of a triangle. So he is doing the utmost in simplistic reasoning. Now, listen. We call these people the fathers and stuff right here in real time. We are dissecting the errors as in reasoning. Again, understand where he is departing from. He is departing from 2,000 years of philosophical principles that he has been groomed in, grown in. The church is a state. At this point in time, Adam and Eve is paramount. This man right here believes in Adam and Eve. This man right here, Descartes, father of philosophy, believes in Adam and Eve. This is the epistemic regime that was being crumbled at this time. This epistemic regime was falling from under their feet. These are the thinkers, father of philosophy, contributions to science. All this natural philosopher was trying to do was establish the validity of his theological premise. I'm taking y'all for a ride right now. And my understanding that it belongs to his nature, that he always exists, is no less clear and distinct than is the case when I prove of any shape or number that some property belongs to its nature. Y'all know this is some bullshit. This is some bullshit. It's weak apologetics, 101. Father of philosophy. Look how we are dissecting him right now. So, by serendipity, he did indeed establish that the abstract nature of the the abstraction of nature can be expressed in mathematical precision. Yes, whether you have a physical triangle or not, you can produce these geometric shapes because these rules are basically the essence of the thing. It is what it is, conceptually or physically. Now you can start to map reality conceptually with these formulas. He bridged algebra and geometry, which formed the foundation for who to later produce what? Newton to produce calculus. What was calculus? It is a way to understand God's creation. It's the language that God's creation speaks. This is where that philosophical framework comes from. One is easily misled by the analogy between the ontological argument and the geometric demonstration, and by the language of proof in this passage. And others like it. Descartes does not conceive of an ontological argument on the model of the Euclidean or axiomatic proof, in which theorems are derived from epistemically priori axioms and definition, which means the other way around, the Euclidean, you need evidence to substantiate the axioms that you are producing, within which you would derive your equations. Descartes has no such epistemic or empirically valid grounds. His is purely a rational thought. However, the fact that he accepted the possibility to be wrong and created this mathematical structure, he gave a philosophical component, that self-correcting mechanism, by making being wrong acceptable, was a bait and switch. All of it was a bait and switch. Science is a serendipity. It's a result of serendipity. The structure that emerged was serendipity. The natural philosophers of the time were not engaging or initiating a process willfully to eliminate the supernatural or the divinity. Natural philosophers work hand in hand with the state to establish the authority, to give that states its rationale for their supernatural agency. So it's by pure luck that we have the scientific method today. By trying to accept the fact that they were wrong and turn it into a positive. These philosophers were the status quo. They were being, skepticism was increasing as to their knowledge. They were consistently being proven wrong. And so, as a good philosopher would do, like the barbershop boys, they boom, boom, bam, boom, boom, boom. Well, wrong, being wrong ain't all that bad. Don't mean that we can revise the thought process. But you see the fallacious nature in which he establishes ontological truth will bear. Today, this would be considered utter weak apologetics. Yet, out of serendipity, it provided science with that self-correcting mechanism. Isn't that fascinating? Let me stop sharing my screen. You can read that in the philosophy of science, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. That's where that comes from. So we have a clear understanding of the serendipity, the by chance nature of the establishment of the scientific method. These are natural philosophers trying to prove and demonstrate their God, and by means of serendipity, ultimately ending up with a secular system to examine the world based on these criteria that were established. Any questions in the chat? Any observations? Anybody want to come up here? And that's my build for today. Right? Tomorrow we are going to talk about David Hume and his contributions to skepticism, where he questions the likes of Descartes' assumptions and assertions without any evidence. This is one of my philosophical pinning points. If there is no evidence to substantiate your claims, then I choose to simply not engage with your claims. You cannot know anything about your claim if you have no evidence to support it. You cannot be making assertions about outside of space-time metaphysical claims without actually having any evidence to support it. King J, what it do, buddy? Come off the mic, off mute. You got the floor.
What's good, family? Just coming on to support the channel. You know what I'm saying? That's about it. Definitely enjoyed the presentation. How you breaking it down? You know what I'm saying? Step by step and showing people, you know, just what it really is.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
hmm
Did you catch the presentation today?
I did in and out. I'm on the same same page with you as this. So everything that you're saying, I agree with as far as like natural philosophers and just showing them. I don't understand why they don't like. At this point, if they don't understand, they just don't want to. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean,
Yeah.
how can it be metaphysical? So you ask somebody this: did the ancient Egyptians separate their science from their religion? And they'll tell you no,
No.
right? And then they'll still try to say that it's and call that science. I don't get it. To me, anything that has a subjective variable in the equation can never be science.
Yes. What makes science is its universal applicability, right?
That part as well.
From the moment you have cultural subjective aspects to your science, it's no longer science. It's simply your cultural container,
The cultural lens.
your
The
cultural
cultural lens.
container of your
Yeah.
ideas, right? And each
Yeah.
culture would have then a different philosophy. Your neighbors next door would
Yeah.
have a different philosophical framework, and then that framework would never be applicable in your own environment. God killer.
Exactly. Exactly. The atomic laws don't change.
Yeah,
They
great,
don't
great
change.
build, great build. It's like everybody got a way to raise their kids, and that's not scientific.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it varies from household to household, from country to country. And within the country, it varies how much money you got, how much you don't. Yeah, so man, people really trying to think scientifically, right? Can actually get it, but it just takes some thought, man. Appreciate you actually jumping on, King J. Appreciate you, bro.
You
You
already
know,
know,
I hit you
family.
up, man. Appreciate you, yo. I'm
You
gonna go
know,
ahead and do a. I'm gonna look at that debate and go ahead and play it. I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna look at it and play it.
you need to. You need
All right,
to.
all right, I got you. All right, I'm right here. I'm listening to the conversation, man.
Yeah, so
All right.
God, we've
Uh huh.
always been, we've always been talking about, and Sosa brings this point always forward, the serendipitous nature of science, right? That
Yeah.
often discoveries are stumble onto, or people have to pivot because their research is leading them in a different direction. And now we see that science itself, pillars of science, emerge out of serendipity. Attempts to reestablish and affirm the state authority led to a secular product. Isn't that fascinating? That's
Yeah, it
fascinating.
was all luck. Yeah, I had a conversation earlier today. Yeah, it was all that shit was luck, bro.
Yeah,
It wasn't no like planned out. We're gonna do this to do. It wasn't that. It's just any sense. I mean, man.
Now, if in the epistemic rupture, where the epistemic regime was starting to crumble, right, forced a serendipity which produced science, right. These people were attempting to just establish or reconfirm or solidify the authority. Failed at it. Now, go back in history where your cultural container is intact 5,000 years. No epistemic rupture. What would be the impetus to put up on a serendipitous notion of science? None, exactly. There would be no reason. So to retroactively attempt to put science in paradigms where it wasn't necessary, had no natural incentive to develop, right? It is the most fallacious argument ever. There is
Very,
no aspect of this conversation which would allow the illusion of science prior to the scientific revolution.
very anachronistic.
Yeah,
Yeah, that killed the
fundamental.
whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Anachronistic. Yeah. And then give me a group of people that can move 12 million people to one particular area, right? And then we ain't even counting the Caribbean, just to Americans. Just I mean, you know what I mean? Just I mean, period, bro. Like that's a lot of people to move, a lot of money being made, a lot of progress, whole lot of stuff went there, man. I think once you study, what science is and how it came to being, you ain't even giving it credit like that. And then it take communities around the world, and then you gotta have that knowledge flow around the world, right? And who has the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge flow around the world? Nobody. Until you got to discover the whole world before you can even start having knowledge
Yeah.
flow. So that's where
Mm-hmm.
we at, man. Very
There,
interesting.
there, are- there are fundamental aspects of this historical narrative that are simply being missing. And what is strange is the Black conscious community is always a community that prides itself on their historical accuracy, right? Their historical narrative. So how is it that no one seems to be aware of the ecology and the social environment and the social fabric that exists in these different epochs, right? In these different epistemic regimes. If you look at the Egyptian epistemic structure, they are very disciplined, methodical in reproducing the texts which give the gods the power over their cosmology.
Mm-hmm.
That system is designed to maintain order. Even when we talk about the breaks, everyone forget that the scribes that came after them reattached some spells to those scrolls, right? Because you cannot deny the gods their place in this equation. It is simply not done.
Mm. Cedric, when you mentioned serendipity, were you referring to the three princes, the stories in regards to them, how they were in regards to discoveries by accident?
Yes.
Um, Okay, for sure. Like when you talk about Alexander Fleming and penicillin, how he left
Yes,
the petri dish out and the mold grew. And
yes,
so that was an accidental discovery. It wasn't something that
yes.
was okay for sure.
Yes. So now, what you see here by the Descartes ontology, his ontological argument is trying to bring his supernatural or his metaphysical claim into reality by equating it to abstract actualities, right? Because
Hmm.
a triangle, whether physical or not, whether physical or abstract, its properties and its essence remain the same.
I understand.
But I can do that for a mermaid as well. It's an abstract idea that when we say it, we understand the properties of it, right? However, that doesn't make it an ontological factuality, right? Ontologically, we can describe it because it's a shared phenomena, but there is no actuality to it. So now equating the actuality of a mermaid in your head with the actuality of a triangle, that is a false equivocation, and it is slipping your supernatural claim into the realm of reality. Now, modern philosophers understand that that's some nonsense. But what it did establish is the principle that God's nature can be modeled by means of mathematics. Because if I can conceptualize a triangle, that is an instrument that I can use to model nature. Because if I'm using it to model nature, I am thereby I'm quantifying the existence of a God, right? By the mere fact that I can apply this equation. So he creates a one-on-one equation, which in modern terminology, not in modern terminology, tomorrow we're going to see how Hume totally demolishes these philosophical points in the theological realm. But what he did for science remained valid. He created a probabilistic nature. Do not speak in terms of certainty based on your observations, Bacon. They are tentative. You do not have enough information to reach to that conclusion. So that created the self-correcting mechanism. That in itself was based on the establishment trying to create a philosophical premise to maintain their status. It is okay for us to have been wrong. We can reevaluate, we can revisit, we can re-examine our ideas. It is not it doesn't mean that our position and our status has been diminished. No, 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 no. We are going to move the goalpost. We are going to create an unfalsifiable position by okay, it's okay, we could be wrong. From a philosophical standpoint, it creates that unfalsifiability, right? Because if I defeat your idea
Exactly.
of a God, I can rephrase it. But in science, it provides a self correcting mechanism.
Mhm.
Go ahead, King J.
Yeah, I'm here. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
I,
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can, yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you now.
let's rewind back just a little bit to serendipity. So y'all realize that shit about 2-3 thousand years before uh um the discovery of penicillin, the Nubians had that type of thing going on. They had beer, right? And
Right,
in
right.
their beer, they had those qualities right there.
Hmm.
All right. So, penicillin in the beer and they used to drink it. So imagine if they had a global trade there, the world would have found out about that, right? And they could have worked on better methods of applying it. Now, shit, the Nubians was lucky. It ain't like they invented the shit. They stumbled on it like everybody else did. So that's the point there. Most of these things, the microwave is serendipity. They didn't just sit back and put science to the case and create the microwave. No, somebody was standing with a chocolate candy bar in their pocket near some radio waves, not microwaves, and it melted this shit. And they like, well, damn, interesting. And they end up fitting it, later on down the line to a damn microwave. That shit wasn't no planned trip to America to find America. It wasn't none of that. Yeah, so I just think the mindset that they have is a defeatist mindset. Because at some point you have to sit back and pay attention and learn what the hell is going on. You can't dive in this conversation. This is not one of them dive in conversations. This one of them read, study, see some, hear some different things, and be able to push that forward. That's what that is, though.
Yeah, this is not, and like I indicated at the beginning, I told everyone there are two sources you need to study: the history of science and the philosophy of science. And when I did that, I expected to see everyone in a matter of 2 years. We would have long had the conversation. They would have come back after 2 years of studying this stuff the way it needs to be studied, at least to have a coherent argument. There are so many nuances to this conversation, right? There are particular words being used because they are germane to the conversation. It's a revolution.
Yeah.
You have to understand what that word means: upheaval, destruction, chaos. It is not a smooth transition. This whole narrative of more information leads to science is incorrect. It is the ability to harness all of the information of these epistemic regimes. You have different epistemic regimes around the world. The age of discovery puts you in contact with these epistemic regimes. The knowledge you gathered was out of these particular systems. With their framework, which you did not understand, you could not do nothing but the data, the raw data. You needed a way to process this data. It is because of these indigenous cultures having holistic systems in epistemic regimes which functioned absolutely perfectly. We keep pointing y'all in the direction. The Niham problem, the Neum problem,
Mhm.
the problem, the Neum problem. Go study. Stop arguing. We're giving y'all the framework in which you need to do the research. It is not about winning. It's about educating yourself. Mel, what it do? What it do? You got the flow.
Hey, what's going on, man? What's going on, y'all? Good presentation. I just wanted to come up here and add on to something you were saying. I think it's critical to understand to understand science properly. You have to understand the philosophy of it. It's almost like taking the time to watch someone play chess and understand, how certain pieces move and where they're supposed to go, but not knowing why the rules in chess exist in the first place. Uh, so understanding that science teaches us how to investigate the world around us, understanding that philosophy explains what counts as knowledge, what counts as evidence, what counts as science. And that's why it matters. It defines it. And so I think it's critical that, you start with a good starting point with Descartes and Bacon. Uh, Also, people should also know, even though they had different positions, we use them both today. It's just science doesn't argue whether uh, one is superior or not. There's one that, people, because, they had different groups and some may lean towards another, but both of them are applied in science. So, yeah, I just wanted to speak on that. But good show, man.
Yep, that's a fact. Thank you. And that illustration you produced for me. Thank you. It is indicative. You see that the both systems are working together, right? Your deductive reason, as the God Killer also pointed out yesterday, is a foundation of how you engage. You see, Descartes, he was engaging in deductive reasoning. That is what he was doing, right? So inductive is what Bacon is using, and you see that Descartes is engaging in deductive reasoning, right, to come up with the falsification process. He is justifying, right, when and if he's wrong, he can always revisit. So it doesn't mean detrimental. It doesn't mean heresy. It's not the end of the world. He is changing the philosophical landscape, allowing for science to not be absolute. And it can't be absolute because of hasty generalizations when you use the inductive method. So you see that there's a fluidity within these walls, keeping each other in check. Right? It's a fluid system. That's why, based on the particular phenomena that you are going to investigate, one system would override the other. That's why regressing the conversation to observations and tools and this stuff is infantile. That's the fluidity in the system. Our tools will continue to advance. The methods and the manners in which we investigate nature will continue to change. That is the hope. However, the framework under which it sits, look at what that's produced in the last 300 years. Now, we can't speak in absolutes. I might wake up tomorrow and find myself in an epistemic rupture. But the likelihood of that, the probability is almost zero. King J, God Killer, anybody?
Yeah, I got to unmute. Yeah. Real quick. All you gotta do is ask yourself, what system did the Egyptians have in place? This is for my Egyptian lovers or Egyptian history seekers that claim they know Kemet. Where in the text do they have a system for checking the checker? Where's that system at? Where's the built-in mechanisms? Right? Did they speak in absolutes on certain things and items? Where is that in place? Where is it? Where is the mechanism in place in medicine where it's actually putting up a treatise against the magic? You know what I'm saying? And maybe that's too strong of a word, a treat, but you have to have where is it not proper, right, in Egyptian culture not to add the magic to the medicine? The spells. Where's this conversation around we're questioning the spells? Where's the institution of questioning the spells? You're gonna always find one few, of course. You're gonna find non-believers amongst everybody. Where is it at? Where's the event at? Why can we identify certain events in history? Because it's not just one person. I just like to add that.
Yeah, there's gonna always be a ritual associated with it, or some sort of heka or magic, uh, spoken or enchantment or utterance, with any type of thing that I've seen in the Ebers papyrus or any type of thing. So, I'm sitting here pondering. I'm thinking like, wow, when you spoke about the beer, right? And then so
Yep.
they made the beer,
Mm-hmm.
and then so at the same time they took that and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and found that they could apply that to the wound, and it would heal, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they didn't know that it was an antibiotic, right?
Nope. No.
That's the perfect example of what Sid was talking about, a serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
was more or less trial and error, and through the error they observed something that they wasn't expecting to find.
Absolutely, bro. There you go. That beer they drinking, and you
Mm-hmm.
might trying to wash it. And first of all, let's talk about the beer was like replacement of water because the water tastes so damn bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
why they made the water, with the beer, so you could have
Mm-hmm.
liquid to drink.
And
So if
that
you
is
want to wash,
serendipity in itself.
so if you want to wash off the wound, right? What you do?
Yep.
You pour the beer on it.
You're on the beer.
By
Yep.
happenstance, the
On
wound
accident.
starts to heal. You get? They
Exactly.
don't know the why. They don't know that.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, go ahead, finish that. I
No,
forgot you read
you
Glitch
broke.
too. I forgot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you broke that down perfectly. You explained the why and the how.
Yep.
Yep.
We talk.
They,
They talk about the veneration of the Nile so often, and people forget that the primary reason for the veneration of the Nile was the flooding, right? And the results of the flooding was grain growth. The Nile itself was not something that these people uh, enjoyed, wanted to be around. The Nile is dangerous. You got crocodiles, you got hippos, you got Nile monitors, you got cobras, you got all type of dangerous animals up and down the Nile. And on top of it, the Nile is a cesspool, right? That water is contaminated. You can't drink that water. So their water came primarily from wells, and those wells come from groundwater as well. So it was for the most part contaminated as well. So when they were forced by means of no good harvest to produce the barley to make the beer, then they were forced to drink in the wells and in the Nile, and people would die. That's an actuality, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't overwhoop what the Nile represent. That beer, right? It killed the bacteria all throughout Europe. You see in documentaries and in movies, and so you go into a bar, they ask for ale or wine. Why? Because people didn't know how to boil water. Although they had heat, they could make fire, but they never thought that boiling the water would kill the bacteria. So they went through the whole expensive process of making beer and wine. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yep. And I wanna say something real quick about the, because you're right. Egyptians did not have like a self check system. They didn't have a way to um, preserve civilization, even though it could cause disruptions. Um, I think for me, anyone who may try to oppose that, to say, "Oh well, my was the self check system," I disagree, and I got 3 points as to why I would disagree. Um, there are flaws within my that science, the foundation of it, eliminates. So there are three things that my art requires, and I'm not even just talking about the religious aspect because it's twofold. Um, but there's tradition that validates practices. There's an authority-centered focus that, if it's accepted by the tradition and the authorities, i.e., the priesthood, the rulers, accept it, it's assumed to be true. And then lastly, the Egyptians were primarily focused on creating stability. So anything that could disrupt what they had going on was automatic opposition. That does not exist in science. Science always revises, it prioritizes revising. Science doesn't rely on tradition, it relies on experimentation to validate practices and claims. And we all know science doesn't support an authority, let alone an appeal to such authority, because there's plenty of criticism that exists within science in many fields. So that's just a prepared rebuttal for anyone who may want to use, my art as a response to them no longer having them not having a self-check system.
Yes, and that's because we understand what knowledge systems are. Knowledge
Right.
systems come out of your primarily out of your cultural container. It is your philosophical foundation, how you interact with the natural world around you. We are going to see deep philosophical thought in different African cosmologies all throughout the continent. You're going to see different philosophical thoughts in Native Americans, in South
Right.
Americans. Each culture develops a epistemic regime, and that epistemic regime was primarily nature based. Other the gods or nature had agency, right? But it was all authoritative. It was not inductive, it was deductive. We saw and we concluded, and based on that conclusion being rational, based on having that idea confirmed, even whether by chance or luck, it became the status quo. Right? This is a completely different process. What happened with the epistemic rupture in Europe? Again, as we read yesterday, crossing that Atlantic and putting up into new land completely shifted the landscape. They went there with maps that had three continents on it. That piece of paper was completely and utterly useless. Understand what that means. You're now in sea without a rudder. You're sailing without a rudder. You don't know where you're going because the map simply don't work. You're left like clueless. This is what forced
Right.
that epidemic rupture in Europe.
Right. And yeah, I want to respond to this comment here. Uh, so the thing here is with this comment is you would have to pinpoint exactly what was said to showcase that they have a they have a way to correct theories about nature. Majority of what they practiced was about morality. They corrected behavior. They supported a certain type of behavior. That was their focus. Their focus wasn't about addressing the truth about the world around them. That wasn't even a focus because they were focused on being stable. But show me a case where they have, like what Karl Popper presented, falsification. Show a case of that. You won't find it.
Yeah, they didn't have that.
Yeah, I ain't holding my breath.
Show criticism, like peer criticism. You will find it.
They didn't have peer review. Nope.
Nope. Show replication. You won't see that. You won't see revision being presented. Everything stayed the same because they were stagnant.
Hey,
You can't.
If they were able to repeat the process, then we would be far off. Then you know what I'm saying? We would be into Jupiter by now.
They would be far off. They would be far off. They barely got enough of a foothold to be able to defend themselves. They weren't ready for the Messianics that came in. They did what they could, but eventually we all saw what happened. There wasn't a push. There wasn't a push for them to set up those mechanisms for correcting things like that. The
Ain't
only
them,
thing they were focused on was morality.
ain't them Hyksos come in there with them half-ass chariots and beat them up?
crazy. Took the whole thing. They said it was in breakneck speed too. And really, well, if you really get into the grooves of the Hiscos, they was already that population was already living in the Delta, but you had
Oh
some
yeah.
shepherd kings that came in,
Correct.
probably with the hardware and shit, and say, "All right, we got them." And it was an easy take, but I'd like to also talk about why didn't the Egyptians smoke iron? Why did they enter the Iron Age so late? You can find
Oh, right.
daggers and stuff in the Nubian tombs, right? But you find these meteorites in the tombs, meaning that they made daggers out of the meteorite shit. But why didn't they do that? Why they knew about it, right? They were so Mayatnin. Why did they use it? That's why they actually lost against these incursions because they still had stone weapons, y'all. You can find that detailed in the destruction of black civilization, and that information is still relevant at that particular point. They didn't have mass production of iron, which would have allowed them to keep their civilization. So really, they was out of the order of Mayat at that point, right? One more point, for sure. West African civilizations, right? Uh, 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 Northeast African civilizations in Africa, they tied to the community so much so that the behavior they claim your behavior brings disease in, right? Basically, so if one person gets sick, it must be the community is out of whack, which ain't true. This man just got sick, right? Then think about what I'm saying. That disease is tied to the community, right? Superstition, right? Right now, today, 2026, the NFL.
Yeah, we got cut off.
You got cut off. You got cut off mid sentence. Mid sentence. Yeah, that there, especially today when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about the self-correcting issue, the self-correcting mechanism within
Yes.
science, right?
Yes.
When you hear people talk about the issues in science, it is always interesting to me because I ask them one question: how do we know that there are issues in science? It
Mm-hmm.
is science's own self-replicating nature that answers these questions, right? So that means science is working. The moment we know there are replication issues in science, That means science is working because they have
All right.
discovered there are replication issues, right?
So,
Science is doing its job. Go ahead.
so real quick, I want to address this before I come back. So he was saying explain why science is having replication revolution. Thousands of peer review sources can't be reproduced. There's a couple of problems with the replication.
That's the same guy.
The biggest concern, small sample sizes. That's the biggest concern. Studies can't detect patterns that disappear, with small sample sizes. They have to have large amounts of data to be able to comb through it all and see, okay, we have a pattern, we have a flaw here, we need to adjust this. You know what I'm saying? So the next thing, with the replication issue, um, funding is hard to get for one. So if you don't have the funding, you can't continue to replicate things without the backing. That's the biggest thing. So there's other issues with certain pressures with certain publications that me personally have an issue with, uh, because they're more so certain publications more so reward scientists for new findings and new discoveries, and not necessarily rewarding them for verifying older studies. So that's another issue that exists. But so there's plenty of reasons why I think we have replication issues. But the thing is, that science is constantly correcting itself. Things are constantly being fixed. They're constantly being addressed. Science isn't broken just because of replication issues. So it's not a strong point to land on that we have replication issues, when you still haven't provided one example of Egypt having a self correcting method or process.
But he answers his own question. How they even know they got replication issues? Did God tell them? Or did science itself say it? See what I'm saying? Your own
Yeah,
Right.
question proves the
yeah,
point, bro.
that's irrational. It's not an outside source. That's self-correcting nature. So the moment you hear nature says it's a problem, once you hear it is a problem, that is because science, its self-correcting process is seeing this. Hey, we got a problem here. These experiments aren't being replicated. You know how we know that now? Because there's so much work being produced, right? There's backlogs. People are doing preprints, information is coming out. You know what is helping us deal with that? AI, metadata analysis. The peer review process is getting more efficient. The falsification process is getting more important. There is a name for it right now. It's called crisis science because we're dealing with these issues. Like that self-correcting nature of science is why science is undefeated. Y'all take something that science is talking about. Hey, we are noticing this within the system. These are the issues. These are the things we're being worked on. It's transparent. That's why you know. And now you take the positive aspect of science and try and make it into a negative. How do you know that there are replication issues? Answer that question. Answer that question. How do you know?
That's
Isn't it
radio.
that?
Who said that? That's Wisdom Common Radio, right? Yeah, he always.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his favorite thing to say, bro. I ain't even mad at you. He said every show, bro. There, I see Flash. Hey, Flash, yo. Answer the question though. How you know? Where you read that at?
How you
In
know?
the journal of the Bible? Where you get it from?
That's crazy.
Oh boy, that's hilarious. Sources, academic sources, right? Scientific sources, because science is a self-correcting process. That's what science is, a self-correcting mechanism. So why do you insist on telling us something we know which proves the efficiency of science? It is the wildest thing. Yeah, yeah, science. Every minute you change it. Of course, we need to do that. It continues to upgrade. It is tentative. You can only reach a tentative conclusion because you cannot make absolute claims. We don't know everything. We have an assumption based on the best inference we can make. Like Hume says, we can assume and accept that the sun will rise tomorrow. That's a true justified belief based on it having happened all the time. However, there is no certainty there. It's only probabilistic. I think I told y'all this is a thinking game. If you all go down this rabbit hole with me, I might fry your brain. Be careful. Be careful. Yes, Karl Popper is a significant individual. He
Yes.
shows the history and how long it took to get to where we are. And it's a continuous process. Falsification is something of the 21st century, I think, or the 20th century. I'm not sure. But I'll be adding the work of Karl Popper to the whole bill because that's one of the great linchpins.
Hey, Cedric, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You actually said it, yo. Is um it's science. Science is not working around the absolutes, right? The probability. The sun gonna continue to shine is about a 99.9% probability. Meaning, right, that shit, it out of nowhere, that sun could just explode and destroy the
Boom.
whole. You know what I'm saying? So no, it does not. It works off probability. So it's not working absolutes. The Bible works in absolutes. That's why I
And what
speak in the story because it's an
and,
absolute.
and what about like through skepticism? Like maybe like us on this panel right now. We sitting up here a panel through like something called maybe like a peer review, right? Cedric presents something, and shit, we go through it. You know, we if you know, um, looking for the method to see if the method is right or wrong. If it's right and we can reproduce, if me and everybody else on the panel can reproduce what Cedric is talking about, then is that make it right? Is that how that goes? Does that make it um valid?
Falsification process happens a
Through
little bit
falsification.
different.
Uh-huh.
That's that counterintuitive nature of science. I am trying to tear your work apart. I am going over a fine tune comb with it. I am looking for the errors. I'm not interested in replicating your work. I'm interested in finding the errors in your work. By
Okay.
now meticulously going through each step by step, reproducing your work, I am examining it for flaws. So
So we
it
start
is
with
not
the so we
that,
so we start with the
so it's not
hypothesis,
that.
and then we'll do the experiment, right? And then after we do the
Mhm.
hypothesis experiment, whatever or not whatever anomalies we made, whatever errors, then we go over that, and then we correct that. Correct.
Yes,
And
yes,
refine the model. So that's
yes.
the refinement in the
Yes.
correcting
Yeah.
in
Before
science.
you put your work out there, you go through that self falsification process. Why? Because you know the only thing Cedric wants to do is tear your work down. The moment I can overturn Darwin's theory or Einstein relativity, I have just etched myself in the annals of history forever. That is every scientist's goal to discover something that we thought was so and it isn't. So they are busy trying to falsify your work, prove your work wrong. And the less and less I'm able to prove it wrong, the more probable your work is correct. Because we are always working in
Or not
probability.
necessarily prove wrong, maybe just refine the model.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's that
Will,
self-correcting nature.
will we see that as an example in Newton's physics and the general and relativity
There you go.
as the
Yeah,
updated model, the old model, and then we the updated. Okay.
exactly.
How
So
about
Darwin, how about
how long was Pluto a planet? It's not a planet no more.
no? Yeah, yeah. That was forever a planet until recently.
All right, there you go.
Flash, you got the floor, Flash. State your case, ask your question, speak your speech, brother. You got the floor, Flash. You got the floor, Flash. Going once, going twice.
Yo, yo, yo.
You got the floor.
I had a hey, how you doing to the panel?
Peace, peace. What's good, brother?
To
What's
hell
going
with you.
on?
To hell with you. Good Godspeed.
Uh,
You got the floor, brother. Speak your speech.
hold on, I'm echoing something. I got something open. Hold on.
You're not echoing to us.
Okay, well I'm good then. My question,
You're echoing
my question is this.
pseudoisms.
My question is this. Y'all fighting replication, right? And you're not telling the truth. You ain't telling the truth about the problems we got in science.
So you start off by stating something about replication.
So how can y'all not tell the truth about the situation, the problems we got in science, though?
So yeah, so we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna
start by we did acknowledge that there's issues with replication. That still doesn't.
What I'm saying.
That still doesn't mean science is broken.
So is 40% and lower good for replication?
So wait a minute, bro. Brother, we're gonna have the conversation. I don't know why you're so defensive. First of all, you're making a claim about replication. Replication is part of the scientific process.
Boy.
However, you made a claim that there's a problem with replication.
Man.
First thing, we acknowledge that. How do you come to know that there's a problem with replication?
Because you have independent researchers, scientists trying to do these experiments over, trying to reproduce them. It's simple. Like Cedric, I don't know why you act like this is a situation that's
no. We gonna have the conversation, bro.
You don't cut me off.
No. We gonna have the conversation. If you can't have the conversation, you can leave. So you're not gonna get emotional. You made your point. I'm gonna.
I ain't make no point. I ain't get a chance to finish, bro. I never got a chance to finish.
You said no. Now you need to stop. You're gonna walk through this. You said independent scientists. You know what they are independent for? Because they are part of the peer review process. You independently try and replicate these experiments. When they fail to be replicated, what does that mean? Either you need to go back to the drawing board, right, and write the new hypothesis, redefine or adjust your hypothesis, or scrap this experiment because it led nowhere. Most of these people that are trying to replicate these experiments, the initiators of them, has long since scrapped them. A lot of people are trying to replicate them because they're picking up the process again. There are many factors whereby you see these issues coming forward. But the mere fact is science and its self-correcting nature is illustrating, hey, here is a gap, we need to close up here. Y'all are producing far too much information without the replication process being complete. We can have issues there with peer review. This is something that science itself is talking about. So I do not understand what your argument is. So now that I've stated that, please, what is the argument you're trying to bring forward? You got the floor again.
9 times out of 10, Cedric, man, when you get on this panel, you get cut off. You know that, right? Now you just explained something that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on in science, bro. If it was self-correcting, why it ain't corrected since 2010? Why are we still having the issue in 2026 and this started in 2010? Why it ain't self-corrected yet? It's my question.
It's always self-correcting because
it's how can it be?
Regardless of the flaws that exist.
Self-correcting means that they put a plaster on it or put some glue. Self-correcting is the fact that the data is examined. It's put out there that this is the quantity of issues we have. These are the scientists working on it. It is a process. Science in itself is a process. You know that sometimes you can do a research for 40 years and still not have a conclusion. And that is the beauty of science. Now, you're indicating the self-correcting mechanism at work, which is part of the scientific process. What is the problem?
Well, let me get my turn. Don't
the problem.
Oh no! Hold on, my turn.
Relax. The floor. Go ahead.
Relax. I got a steadfast rule. When a person just repeats something so many times, They scamming. So I don't believe you that the self-replication problem is to the level that you continue to say it every time. I don't think you can produce high-level scientific articles that repeatedly say what you're saying at the level that you're stating it at. I think you're over-whooping it. I'm certain you're over-whooping it. The point that was really made, and I don't want the audience to lose it, that it is science that recognizes these problems, not you. You just read the article by some wild person that gave it to you, acting like science is broke. It very well might be broke, but they are the ones that have identified it's broke. That is the whole point of the conversation. I end right there.
Right. Yeah, I want to say I support that, but it's not broke. So we got to look at this like this. So there are going to be results that turn out to be false. There are going to be papers that end up retracted. There are going to be theories that end up getting overturned. And there are going to be conclusions that are going to be addressed as mistakes. But these things are science admitting that there are errors. But that doesn't take away from the reliable production that it does have in other fields. So like
I wouldn't even. I wouldn't even call
like,
them. I wouldn't even call them mistakes because we could just say that's like through accidental observation, right? If we're looking for result A, but we accidentally find B through trial and error, that doesn't mean that A was wrong. We've just discovered a
correct.
new proof.
Correct. But the reason why I say mistakes is to point out that a system that never acknowledges that it has an error or that errors occur could be broken. But a
Right.
system that acknowledges that hey, there are errors, there are problems, there are inconsistencies
Exactly.
can't be broken because it's acknowledging those
The
inconsistencies. It's
possibility.
acknowledging those imperfections, and then
Mhm.
still,
When it's
regardless of those
designed to do that as
imperfections,
well.
right, and it's still, regardless of those imperfections, regardless of those flaws, as he wants to point it out, we still have consistencies, reliable consistencies, like modern medicine, like space exploration, like semiconductors, like the communication systems that we use across the world. Like I can keep going as far as evidence that science still works in our day-to-day usage of it. So regardless of the flaws he wants to point out, regardless of the inconsistencies of replication, you can't shut those things down because we constantly use them. We constantly rely on them because they work.
Yep, that's it. They work. And as long as they work, right, there is no issue. The fact that we know that there's a problem, that means science is doing what it's supposed to do. It has identified the problem and now it's addressing it. The fact that we know about it is because science worked. So this argument makes no sense. There could be 10,000 experiments scrapped. That is irrelevant. We are talking about the mechanism and the system working because it is only through the system can you know that there are 1,500 experiments that need to be scrapped. There is no other way other than by means of the scientific method and the system which built to tackle these issues.
Hey, said real quick, you can have thousands of studies that are wrong. You can have thousands of scientists that are biased. You can have thousands of institutions that focus on incentives that they get as far as their ability to be able to look over certain things and lean a certain way.
Mhm.
Regardless of those things, science still isn't broken.
Yep,
Regardless.
regardless. Regardless. The universality of it means you can never govern or police everyone. Someone somewhere is going to say this is incorrect. And here's why because of the universality of the system.
Yeah. I want to ask the question. So what is it that he has that will replace it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
He doesn't have anything that is self-correcting with error detection. He doesn't have anything like that.
He's going to use an independent scientist.
Hey, gonna use some.
Hey, I don't even want to address it, but the fact that you bring it up an independent scientist in the first place.
The wildest thing ever, yo. That's the point. That and that's a lesson to learn because the black community are always supposed to have independent scientists. That's what they do with the vaccine. They got
Right, but
they
then
got studies done by independent scientists outside of
exactly,
the government, outside of the regulation. They form their own groups. Look it
exactly.
up, bro. So don't talk to me, Nation of Islam, with the foolery, with the Navy beings. Don't talk to me, the wild Pan African organizations that promote the foolery. Don't talk to me. Go develop an independent body of researchers and scientists that can check the checker. We applaud that. Knock it off.
Yeah, knock it all the way off. Just knock it all the way off. Y'all are disingenuous, right? And y'all are flim-flamming. All y'all drive cars. Y'all wear clothes. Y'all eat food. All of this is governed, managed by the scientific process. So that self-correcting aspect of science, I can't understand how your science got 50. How do you know the independent scientists? Well, science is working. Y'all are lying. How are we lying? The fact that 1,500 experiments have been taken out, identified as not qualified. What do we now know? We know that this doesn't work. That's how science works. It is science in action.
Ben, you know what you should do? You should do a show and name it and call it Paradigm Shift. Paradigm Shift. And
Yeah,
you know where it explains how how the new model will explain all the old anomalies and as well as the new model as well.
I in the series there is a I address that when I'm explaining doing the semantic trap. There is part
Mhm,
of it that I break down what these terminologies mean, what
mhm,
epistemic rupture mean, what paradigm shift mean. The body of work is there,
mhm,
so they don't
mhm.
have to say that we didn't put the information out. It is out there, synthesized and
Oh,
congruent,
you already did
but
the
they're
paradigm shift.
refusing to learn. They're refusing to learn.
Yeah, they don't want to. At this point, they don't want to. They don't want
No, because of the epistemic rupture, right? Again,
to.
natural philosophers want to maintain that authority. That's why guys like the bomb squad, they want the ability to sit up on a panel for 8 hours and make shit up,
Yeah,
right?
but see,
And
even then,
assume that they have some authority. When they don't, they're academically adept. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're flim flamming. They're academically unsound. They're anti-academia for a fact,
they
and they
Ermin and
just
German.
want some way to keep their supernatural or their spooky beliefs within the realm of reality. Simply
Yeah,
doesn't work.
why do they have a problem with philosophy and philosophers then and theology? Just call it what it is. It's theology.
Yes, because they want the prestige of science. So Ashe wants the prestige of a scientist because he can
Mm.
track a goat too, or he can make a fire in the backyard. So he wants the prestige of a scientist without applying the due diligence.
But King J brings up a valid point. Why not go after the doctorates?
Uh-huh.
But that's how you know his retort isn't built in anything solid. It's
Nope.
based on his
Subjectivity.
opinions and how he feels about it.
Uh-huh.
Like that, it's not built on an actual argument that could withstand, like the dialogue that we're talking about. So it's
I can't
futile.
prove your God wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's very
Exactly.
subjective.
I don't want to prove your guy wrong. That
Exactly.
there's no point in me doing that.
Uh-huh. Circular.
All right, King J, you got the floor. We're closing out. We hit the 2 hour mark. We'll be back tomorrow with another presentation. We're gonna go into David Hume again. My favorite after today's rhetoric by Descartes. We see the logical fallacies compounding in his narrative. He's making a He's making an equivocation fallacy. He's propositing a supernatural metaphysical claim equal to an actual abstraction, right? And
Uh-huh.
this is a boom 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 bam bam. That's a flim flam right there, right? However, the serendipity of his process, he was trying to reaffirm God. He ultimately led to a secular way of investigating the world without the supernatural agent. So serendipity, first class. Ching J, close us out. You got something to say? Close out.
Yes, yes, yes. And great show said, I was jumping on to support, like I said earlier. Just to build off what you just said, just like for a theory to be scientific, you know what I'm saying, it must be false. It has to have that falsibility within it in order for us to prove it wrong. If we say gravity works because of spirits or gods, that's something that can't be corrected, or there's no way for us to test that. There has to be some sort of corrective data that we can actually correct and test. So, but great show. Once again, I'm a big supporter. Drop a cash app, I support, and I'll see you next time.
All right, appreciate it, appreciate it. Mel, you know your presence on this panel can be a regular feature as far as I'm concerned. Your insight and your ability to articulate these things is far superior than I do. So that summary that you put on it is like icing on top. I appreciate you, bro. You got the floor.
Hey, you welcome, man. Hey, it's it was awesome to hear you present. So, shout out to you, shout out to PK. Folks tell a long way. So, yeah, just keep sharing the information, man. Keep teaching them, keep educating them, keep being, Illuminati, keep letting them know. So, yeah, I'm always support it. I'm always support truth and information. So, yeah, just keep doing it.
Appreciate
But
it.
yeah, I support you guys.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mel is not just a supporter; he is a library of resources. He helped with that beautiful representation today. That you see the two systems entwined, like the God Killer also mentioned. So it's a collective effort from everybody here. The pseudo killers maybe in front presenting, but it is a team effort. Again, said the set talks exist because of Kickdoor Ken and the God Killer production. So it is always going to be a team effort, and I'm always going to acknowledge that. God Killer, the big boss, Mount Olympus. Y'all tune into episode 1. Go check out episode 1, the history of it, of this whole debacle that we're in with the God Killer sitting all the way up there on Mount Olympus. I appreciate that he comes down every now and then to talk to us regular folk. You got the flow.
Yeah, big up to Mel too. Mel been around for at least 10 years that I know of, right? He's not just a supporter. He always, go where I go, right? He do his thing. He been doing his thing for years. We done been in epic battles, and I mean, he's always stayed real steady, real proper, like real loyal type of guy, all the way to the end. Yo, like he said, he followed real information. If I get off the track with something, well, then we in the middle of a battle, right? He does not let that compromise him. So, like I said, he always been on the team from day one, right? No matter what that team name is, he's been on the team for advocating science and scientific literacy, yo. So big up to you, bro. You've been around. I remember you was in school, college, the whole 9 yards, bro. So I appreciate you. And it is what it is, man. But for the show is a constant thing. Appreciate that. And we're gonna keep the flow going, right? We're not doing this because other people think they doing it. We doing it because this is what we do. This is our normal regular conversation, It is what it is. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate everybody on the panel, man. Appreciate you, Sid.
Appreciate you, God Killer. Man, listen, we are not reacting. This has been in our planning. You see the production quality, you see the framework, you see the ideas maturing, right? So this is not happening in a vacuum. We never react. We are the A side. We are going to continue to do what we do and push that epistemic rupture within this community, right? Y'all missed the opening monologue, so I'm going to give it to you at the back end as we go out. So today, if you would be a real seeker after truth, it is necessary that at least once in your life you doubt, as far as possible, all things. René Descartes. What if the greatest breakthrough in human knowledge wasn't discovering something new, but learning how to question everything? In the 17th century, as old systems of authority began to crack, one thinker refused to accept knowledge at face value. Instead of asking what is true, he asked he asked a far more dangerous question. How do we know we're not wrong? In Discourse of Method, René Descartes introduces a radical idea. Doubt is not the enemy of knowledge. It is the method. Today, we've explored how this shift didn't just challenge philosophy, it helped lay the foundation for science as we know it, a self-correcting process. René Descartes didn't just influence philosophy, he literally reshaped mathematics. His development of the Cartesian coordinate system allowed geometry and algebra to merge, making it possible to describe physical space using equations. This innovation became essential for physics, engineering, eventually the scientific modeling of reality itself. That's why today's person of the day is René Descartes, often called the father of modern philosophy. Descartes' real impact goes beyond philosophy into methodology of science. His emphasis on systematic doubt, structured reasoning, and clarity help create an intellectual environment where ideas are not protected, they are tested, challenged, and refined. His legacy isn't just rationalism, it's the principles that knowledge must be built in a way that allows for errors to be discovered and corrected. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here for another CED Talk. Y'all know me. I'm gonna be here tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. with the next installment where we get to discuss the works and the impact of David Hume on science and on the philosophy of nature itself. Right? With that, folks, I'm gonna take you out with this one.
Check the credentials. You lack the literacy for this level. Listen. Niggas doing they best, try to bless me. Try harder, keep failing the test, got no pedigree. Push a killer's top dog versus ticks and fleas. Hit them all, trendsetters, everybody follow me. Line up, I make you beg for your life, praying on your knees. Lord, help on little dudes, ain't on my level, too hot, 33 degrees. Just so cold with it, watching niggas freeze. Psych hot, bubbly, flim lemon, nigga please. Got everybody talking science, but they can barely read it out. Said the ignorance is like a fucking disease. I'm really starting to question the mental capacity. Are you home? High school dropouts wanna compete with me. It's a clown, get your gate up. It's a long condo where I be. Trying to retrofit the data just to match your prophecy. Claiming ancient secrets, but it's really just a wage stretch. Hard to learn a lesson when you're dying just to preach. Let's dismiss. Top floor view, stay grounded. Can't know when you sit at the top. If you're coming for the spot. The target online. Grounded in my game, steady as a rock. Ain't hard when you sit at the top. Leave you if you could for the spot. Missiles ain't got the target online. Grounded in my game, steady as a rock. Yeah. Welcome to CED Talks, where we separate fact from fiction. Method of omit every time. This that CED Talk, yeah, we said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just evidence-based when we build these frames. CED Talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defined. They say the ancients had science. Hold up, pause. Knowledge ain't the same as methodological laws. Observation, yeah, but control test rare. No prediction addictive models, you gotta be fair. We respect the past, but we keep it exact. Precision matters when you deal with facts. Astronomy grew, astrology split. One stayed empirical, one lean myth. The shift came through naturalistic method. Just standing of eyes, that's how we embed it. Not culture bound, not tied to a place. It's a universal tool for the human race. This got CED Talks, yeah, you said it straight. Cut through the noise, elevate the debate. No pseudo talk, no foggy claims. Just gathered in space when we build these frames. CED Talks, yeah, clarity first. If it ain't got method, it probably won't work. From ancient knowledge to modern science, we draw that line, that clear defiance. They blur definitions, start moving the goalposts. Turn fried to a claim that don't hold close. Science ain't on, this a process refined. Independent of culture, space and time. You can't redefine it to fit identity. That's how you lose all epistemic integrity. We test every claim, we don't just believe. If it can't be verified, we don't receive. From early observers to labs today, it's rigor and doubt that paved the way. Not name dropping scholars to win a debate, but data and method that validate. So what's your ideology? That's cool to ask, but truth ain't decided by the loudest class. We question it all, no sacred ground. If it don't hold up, we break it down. This that CED Talks, yeah, we live in direct. No fear in the facts, just intellectual respect. No more, no mirror, no fantasy, just truth, logic, and consistency.
Remember, scientific literacy is the vaccine against the charlatan, scammers, hustlers, hoodwinkers in our community. And with that, we out.